Mirrored from the Bearded
Viri
Heretic.
like that are true bioweapons would justify this level of response. But this coronavirus, it's not proving that deadly at all. In fact, because if you look, the coronavirus deaths seem high, but then you realize, wait a second, all of a sudden, people stop dying of pneumonia, people stop dying of heart attacks, people stop dying of kidney failure. They're coding everything as a COVID-19 death. Why is that? Well, to get the money.
There's money.
We got to look at this from the political standpoint now, right? What are the states that are experiencing the greatest curtailment of civil rights as their citizens? The ones that are sanctuary states that are bankrupt. New York State, California, Illinois, Michigan. And looking at it politically from the president's standpoint, did you see his press conference on Friday? The last thing he said is he has big decisions to make, and he hopes to God he makes the right ones.
It sounded like he was going to quit. I mean, I know
almost,
this sounds crazy, right? But as soon as I saw that, he said, it's been my pleasure to have been the people's president or something like that, and I have important decisions to make, and I hope I make the right one. I'm like, wait a minute, why is he talking in the past tense about being president?
Exactly. It sounded like Johnson.
It sounded, yeah, it would really, and I don't think most people caught it because it's Friday and there's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm thinking, that didn't sound right.
It really didn't. And I hope he's not thinking of standing down. And if he's thinking, but I think what he may have been thinking about is, does he open the economy now? Because he knows that these people hate him, okay? He knows that this is the third attempt. And remember, 3 strikes you're out is what we always say, right? They couldn't get him with Russiagate. They couldn't get him with Ukrainegate and impeachment. This is the third strike. This is their third attempt to try to topple him. And so he knows that we've got to open up the economy again. But if he does, are they going to come out with another virus and have people going back to work and back to school and everything? And then we really do have a major health crisis? Or does he keep it closed and more people lose their jobs? More small businesses go out of business, never to return. He's really on the horns of a dilemma right now.
But just in that vein, let's take a step back in my head. You got the H5N1 that's loose in China right now, but that really only affects animals, and it's not contagious because people aren't hanging out with animals, right? It's not like highly contagious like this quote-unquote coronavirus is, right? So,
right, it's contagious to birds because they live, in half a square foot of space, and they're all crammed together like that. But it's not airborne the way coronavirus is.
Okay, so you got that. You got that in the background. You have some people who are arrested in connection to this Professor Lieber from Harvard, right? Yeah, the 2 grad students, and
one of them had 21 vials of biological material in his sock. I would love to know what that biological material was.
And they weren't coming into the States; they were leaving.
They were leaving, exactly.
So we're getting in a strange situation here. If they're leaving the States and they're headed to China with this stuff in their sock, and they're basically they're smuggling biological material, quote unquote, the feds call biological material. They don't want you to know exactly what it is for good reason, right?
Exactly.
Could these guys have been cooking up something way more dangerous than this?
Man,
And
it's
this is
3
just kind of
o'clock
like a
in
little
the
bit of a
morning
test
here,
run. That's
and
what
you
I'm
should
thinking
see
now.
how
Because I had these guys
the sky
last week tell me crazy things that Trump was briefed about a seriously out of control chemical concoction they couldn't get it quote unquote under control. And I talked to you about this behind the scenes
what's
because
going on.
And they're saying,
and that's what I meant when I say a second virus.
Right. And these guys are, when it comes to this stuff, are just street agents and street intel guys. They don't know anything about, like me. But what stuck with them is it was depicted to the White House or the folks on the Hill or whoever the hell it was, and eventually got to Trump, is it was out of control and you need to shut it down. What does out of control mean? What does that mean when it comes to...
Well, like I alluded to with the Russians were trying to take the Ebola virus genetic material, put it inside a smallpox capsule, and then aerosolize it so they could spray a canister from an airplane or or somehow in a subway release a canister like they did with the sarin gas back in Tokyo a couple decades ago. And they ended up, it got out of control, and they ended up killing 500 people in that town.
They were just testing it out, right?
Well, they were developing the
Right.
weapon, and they screwed it up, and it got out of their control, and 500 people ended up dying. And we found out what happened after the Soviet Union fell, and we got to see all of the archives. But I've heard talk that there was something developed at a level 3 lab illegally in North Carolina, and that they will bring it to the level 4 lab in Wuhan, which is, a level 4 lab, for those who don't know, it's the highest level of laboratory security when you're working with a highly virulent pathogen. And a pathogen is any microorganism that will cause a disease. It can be a mold, it can be a bacterium, it can be a protozoa, like, amoebic dysentery is caused by a protozoa. It can be a virus. So
if I'm cooking up a concoction at a level 3 lab and it's quote unquote out of control, I need to take it to a level 4 lab because it can't leak out of a quote unquote level 4 lab because of the air pressure. Is that right?
That's exactly right. What a level 4 lab is a level 3 lab with an extra layer. They have higher air pressure outside the room than inside. So if there are any air leaks, the air will rush into the lab instead of out of the lab. So if you have an accident and they lock the lab down.
Don't forget to check out the Bearded Heretic. That's where I'm hearing this from. What an excellent channel. Thank you, Mike.
There's not going to be an escape of an airborne virus or airborne pathogen.
So when you're loaded up, okay, presumably, I mean, in my mind, we're talking about a lot of things that are just investigative rocks that are being turned over, and you're trying to connect dots and you don't have all the information, working in the dark. But you got these guys headed out of the country with their vials of stuff. Presumably that could be some deadly level 4 pathogen that they want to get quote unquote under control in a level 4 facility.
And what out of control could mean is it'll kill everybody that gets it.
Right.
Maybe they just, as I said the other day on the phone, maybe they just wanted to kill them a little bit for fans of Princess Bride. They didn't want them completely dead, just a little bit.
Just a little dead.
But no, if you're looking at a weapon to make people sick, and the thing kills them, that's not good. That's out of control. So perhaps that was going on. Look, I have 2 questions I would love to have answered, and I doubt either one will ever be answered.
What are they?
Who are the 2? First is, who are the 2 people?
Right.
Second is, what was that biological material?
That was grabbed by the feds, you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
If we had the answer to those 2 questions, we could answer all of the other questions that surround what's been going on in the last 2 months.
Because I've had time, you're right, and I've had time to think about it since we talked a few days ago and analyze it. It's the beauty of taking your time and not rushing into things and being running around like you're a chicken with your head cut off. That's when you make mistakes, even when you analyze things. And it's described as being portrayed as some type of chemical concoction that was out of control, and that had a trigger effect on shutting down the country and etc. That can't really be attributed to this strain because it's got like a 1.5% mortality rate, and it's not out of control. It's not killing people. And a lot of the deaths that have happened is because some of these patients shouldn't even have been on a ventilator to begin with.
The ventilator actually hurt them.
Yeah. So it would have, you would think, presumably, I'm not trying to take anything away from the medical professionals, but if you have a 90%, 85 to 90% mortality rate when a patient goes on a vent, maybe take them off the vent, see what happens. You know what I mean? So these numbers could be even more inflated by the learning curve, the medical professionals. Error. Yeah, exactly. So the current strain is not something that's out of control. They have to be either talking about something different or they were lying to them, flat out lying to them.
That's exactly correct.
Right.
It can only be one of those two things.
Right.
I have not been able to think of a third option. Either this isn't what they're told it was, or they are worried about pathogen B, we'll call it.
Right. Well, I mean, what could be done in the interim where everybody's sitting at home to prepare against pathogen B and not tell anybody? Is there a reason to shut everybody down, or is part of that already loose and they're trying to contain it? I don't know. It's very confusing to a layperson, and it's actually downright spooky. I mean, this is the kind of stuff movies are made of, and but we're living it.
You know, it is, and I'm a little bit older than you. We used to have nuclear drills in school.
Right.
Yeah, I remember
right?
those.
And I always knew, even as a little boy, my dad said, "How did you figure that out?" I said, "Because, Dad, a nuclear bomb's going to kill everybody." So for us to go out into the hallway of the school
Or hide under
and to
your
crouch
desk.
down and wrap our arms around our knees and put our heads down, think, yeah, that's really not going to do anything for us.
It's just easier to scoop everybody up if they're in a fetal position.
But why did we have those drills? So that we could feel like we were taking an affirmative step
right.
to do something to protect ourselves. It was a psychological palliative, right? It was like you have make work, right? It's to give people comfort that they're taking control of their own lives by doing something affirmative. So people now feel like they're participating in this great national effort by social distancing. It's like, well, it's BS. There's no magic to 6 feet. If this were such a bad virus, Mike, how come people that are testing positive in New York City are not sent to the Javits Center, are not sent to Central Park, are not sent to the Comfort? Why are the sick people not being quarantined? See, quarantine isn't keeping healthy people at home. Quarantine is when you isolate sick people.
Right.
Right.
So, lepers were quarantined. They were ostracized from the community. They were put into quarantine. They were kicked out. Why haven't we quarantined sick people? Why have we sent people that test positive for the virus back home to shelter in place with their own family? If this was such a bad virus, it doesn't make sense.
Well, we're all in this together. I keep hearing these things on the radio. I went out to...
what an excellent guest
I don't know where the hell I went. I went out to drop something off somewhere, and it was like a ghost town. But I kept hearing these. I said, let's put on radio, and all the regular ads, like from the electric company around here and Comcast, who are always trying to sell something. They had all these
Spectrum is
radio
the
ads.
same
We're
as
all in this
Comcast
together, and
out
I'm
here.
thinking, you're damn right we are. Because
Yeah,
we're all sitting at home,
You know what it reminds me of?
What?
Remember all those announcements that the people got in 1984? We're at war with Eurasia.
Yeah.
And then, we're not at war with Eurasia. We were never at war with Eurasia. We're at war with Africa.
You mean during the Reagan administration?
No. The George Orwell novel, 1984.
Oh, 84. Fuck, man, I'm like brain dead. Yeah. I was thinking.
It's like
Yeah.
Orwell's trying to warn us, and I think too many people thought he was writing an instruction manual.
On the other side.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they thought it was like a how-to manual.
The governor of Michigan, Rachel, conservative mama. I don't know if you know her work, but she's a comedian who just does scathing political satire. And she just did a video posing as Governor Whitmer from Michigan.
Yeah, crazy eyes. Whitmer.
Right.
Crazy eyes,
I'm going to be banning, sitting sedentarily for more than 30 minutes. I'm going to be banning. I may have to ban standing and walking around for 30 straight minutes. No phone calls after 10 p.m. I'm thinking of banning. Why? Because, this is a woman who is on a massive power trip.
Well, see, this brings out the tyrant, the inner tyrant of a lot of these folks, and we're seeing that play out in a lot of states. The problem is now there's gonna be like some kind of a strange three-legged race, the states against Trump to try to see who reopens. And Trump has these people telling him, don't reopen. The same people that are just giving him bad advice, these quote unquote medical professionals from the government. What an oxymoron.
Yeah, and none of these people are doctors. They hold medical licenses, but none of them are practicing physicians. These
They
are
haven't
all
done
politicians.
anything. They're like
Redfield, Burke,
policy
Fauci,
wonks.
they're politicians.
Yeah.
They're not doctors.
I know.
So why has he got them up there? Let's get some frontline physicians up there, because Mike, I'm hearing from a lot of physicians that this is all BS. And we know it's BS because look what we're seeing on TikTok. We're seeing conga lines of 40 and 50 hospital workers in the hallway.
That's insane.
If they've got time to make a TikTok video, clearly they're not overrun with patients.
Yeah, that's not helping their cause. And not only that, the numbers just aren't there. And even though they're fudging the numbers with the mortality rate, they still can't get there. I mean, this is like they're not even good. I hate to say it. I mean, if I was running this thing and I was nefarious, I'd be fudging the hell out of things.
Yeah, well, they're at this point they're just keeping the grift alive.
Right.
Because, like I said, look at the flu and influenza pneumonia deaths. All of a sudden, this is like a regular flu season, and then all of a sudden, it drops off a cliff. Why did it all of a sudden drop off a cliff? Because they're coding them as COVID-19. And they're coding them as COVID-19 by the CDC's own admission if they're symptomatic.
By the way, it's raining
based on
again here in
symptoms.
Southern California.
Guess what? Those symptoms are also symptoms of the flu. They're also symptoms of pneumonia. The whole thing is, I feel like I'm watching a game of three-card Monte. I know where the queen is, and the duke doesn't.
I'm just speechless on a lot of this. I talked to Bobby Kennedy. He was on fire, just like talking for, just like rapid fire. It was like being on the other end of and if he's listening to this, it's like, for me, it's like being on the other end of a prize fight where you're like doing a rope-a-dope. This guy's got like a lot of time invested in this, and he knows what he's talking about, but he can't get his message out. They won't put him on won't put him on Fox, won't put him on the networks. Because
that's the other thing. It's all because Fox now is controlled media.
Oh yeah, well he tells a story. You listen to this podcast. He tells a story about even back a few years ago. He was very close with Roger Ailes, and Ailes said, "I want to have you on so bad, but Murdoch would fire me in 5 minutes if I put you on and you start talking about vaccines and you start talking about crooked CDC and crooked FDA and crooked NIH and all this stuff and Fauci and Ailes said I'd be out of a job." And usually when you see that, not usually, when you see that, that means the guy's telling the truth.
Right. And, and that is why I do think that the president has had Fauci and Birx up there. I think that he wants them to hang themselves in the court of public opinion so that when he fires them, they're not martyred.
Oh, but the problem is, right, at what cost? Look at the country, and these guys are giving them advice. Close it down. They want to keep it closed until this vaccine is established. It's going to be a disaster.
Well, Fauci said, he doesn't know if we can have elections in November unless there's a vaccine.
Thanks.
Are you kidding me?
Emperor Fauci.
But he apparently did a big backpedal tonight. It's still going on, but I'm hearing from friends that he did a big backpedal, and then the media asked him if he was being forced to support the president, and he just went off on them.
This is a mess. And it becomes. I've been covering schemes for a long time. Schemes. I've seen some really pros. I've worked all kind of crews. Good crews, bad crews, really adept crews. The problem with a bad scheme is it keeps getting deeper every day. They keep digging themselves a bigger grave every day, and it's hard to get out of it if you don't write the scheme, if you don't write a wayward scheme. I don't know if any of this makes sense, but to me it does. And then everything you try to do, you're like in quicksand. You can't get out when you're too far into a scheme. And then you get to the cover-up mode. You figure that we can't bullshit our way out of this, so we're going to go into cover-up.
I'll leave the original link so you can hear the full story. It's a little bit over 2 hours long.
Mode, and then the blame mode. And I think we're right on the line there. I think we're there.
We've
yeah.
we've entered the blame mode.
Yeah. We're in the blame mode now, and we're in the cover-up mode, and we're in the this guy said this guy said that.
But the models. Like, well, guess what? The models contemplated social distancing, so you can't say, see, social distancing works, because the models that said we were going to have 2.2 million deaths contemplated all of these measures. So, we knew. Look, Mike, when they came out with 2.2 million deaths, I knew it was BS.
It's insane.
Because I could see what this virus was doing. I have a fragrance business, deplorablefragrances.com, and my partner has a 16-year-old daughter. Last year, for school, so this isn't anything to do with the coronavirus, she did a report on Italy. They were studying socialized medicine, and is it good or is it bad? And she did a report on Italy, and she came to the conclusion that because of its demographics, Italy's economy has been so bad for so long that the number one demographic group was 80 plus. There were more people over 80 in Italy than in any other demographic group. And there were very, very few people in their 20s and 30s and 40s in Italy because of the economic conditions. Couple that with all of the, the healthcare costs, et cetera, she came to the conclusion that the only way Italy has out of its problem is to let the old people die.
Oh,
and that's exactly what they did. They denied treatment for anybody over 65. So you can't compare it to Italy. You can't compare it to other countries. They're putting out absolute number bar graphs to scare us, right? Oh, we have more cases than any other country. It's like, well, guess what? We've got more people than any other country either. But if you do a per capita bar graph, somebody did a per capita bar graph. Switzerland is way out in the front, and we're way down in like 7th, 8th place.
Well, I mean,
this virus isn't killing a lot of people in Switzerland. Sweden has stayed open through this whole thing. They've been doing what we should have been doing, developing herd immunity. Again, my partner in that fragrance business thinks she wants to be tested for the antibodies because she had a mystery cough, high fever and a mystery cough in late December, early January, and then she got over it. And she thinks it was this, based on the symptoms. She's a nurse practitioner, so she's not, one of these hypochondriacs. I'm hearing that from a lot of people. I think I had this thing in January. I was sick as a dog, and then I got better in a couple of weeks. This isn't the virus that they're telling us it is.
I wonder.
My 80-year-old mom had it and got over it.
I just wonder if Trump is in too deep now and he can't pull out, so he has to go along with it. Like I said, like if it's a scheme and he got played, it's human nature. Nobody likes to admit they got played. Whether you're beat, like you said, a 3-card Monte on the street for $20 or $25. If you're beat a 3-card Monte, or you got duped into shutting the country down by people, or like I said, and it's perhaps a little bit more remote, but it is a possibility that nobody's talking about. Is there something else out there that has them completely freaked out, and this is kind of a setup where they're trying to get infrastructure set up for a second wave?
Exactly. And the frustrating thing for us is that there's no way for us to find out the
There's
information
no way.
we need.
There's no way. Even the stuff I have,
Yeah.
and I've been sharing with people. I mean, it's more than anybody else is saying, but at the same time, this is all high-level stuff. There's maybe 30 people, 35, 40 people in the country that know the answer to these things, and they're not going to talk, especially if they're in on a scheme.
Exactly. I was going to say, out of those 35 or 40 people, probably.
Don't forget, once again, check out the Bearded Heretic. This is a great channel, and Mike has absolutely fantastic information on here with excellent guests.
34 to 39 of them are in on the scheme.
They're in on this scheme. and it's unfortunate because it's just devastating when you look at the more numbers going to come out. Who knows how many more million are going to file for unemployment this week, and where we're sitting, and how do you recover when this much of private wealth has been just stripped from people? And I'm not talking about the stock market. That's another barometer.
No, I'm worried about these small businesses that are never going to come back, Mike.
They're not coming back.
Because the banks aren't lending money. You know, from your banking career, you know exactly what the banks are doing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what they're not doing. They're not lending to the guys on my main street here.
That's too much risk. I wouldn't lend to them if I was, I hate to say it, if I was in the bank and I've been in the bank and I've been in these meetings, they'd say, what's your thought? I'd say, too much risk. Take the money from the government and hoard it. You might need it yourself, especially since you're overextended on your credit lines to the big corporations. And your odds are better that they're going to at least pull through this. But mom and pop, and to be honest with you, it's human nature. I think that if a lot of these guys get these small business loans, they're going to pocket the money. They're going to sit on it, and they're going to say, number one, I'm not paying you back. You ruined my business. Number two, good luck with coming after me.
Get my money back, motherfucker.
You know, I'm going to need this money for food for my family and to try to build some type of a safety net to put my mind at risk about all these unanswered questions for my this isn't about economic survival for your business. This is just about personal survival now. So there's too much risk for banks. And I said that a month ago. These people were saying, oh, in Washington, Mnuchin, these guys, oh, yeah, with this. I said, Jesus, these people are going to be so disappointed when they apply for these loans that they see what they get, if they get anything. And
A friend of mine here runs a little tea shop. I live in a college town, and he's got a nice little shop where you can go in and get any kind of, you know, Japanese tea or Indian tea or whatever, and, you know, just little sweets or little sandwiches or something. And he does a big business with the college. Well, he had to shut down. And
sounds like he
went
might be in
across
Claremont.
the street, his local bank, where they know him
brother.
very well, where he does all his
Not
banking.
far from you.
They basically gave him the Heisman. They gave him the runaround.
get out.
You know, they said, okay, we've got your information. Somebody will call you on Monday. They tell him on Friday. Well, Monday comes and goes. So does Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Friday, the next Friday, he walks back in. He said, you know, what are you doing?
Yeah, what's going on?
He said, somebody's going to call me. They go, oh, well, you can do it online. It's like, well, why didn't you tell me that a week ago?
Now he's in the back of the line.
And he goes, Tim, now I'm not even going to get it because I'm too late.
He's in the back of the line.
I tried to get out in front of it, and now I'm too late. I said, Mark, it's what they're doing across the country. I guarantee you they're going to be keeping most of this money for themselves.
You have to remember, though, right? They're only making a point on the loan. They're making 1% on the loan if they borrow at 0%, right? If they borrow the money at 0% from the government. They're going to make a point, or they borrow 1%. No, I think they renegotiated that they would make 1% up from 0.5%.
Right.
It's way too much risk. It just, I hate to say it. The Treasury, this is like a utopian loan situation. There's too much risk for the financial institutions, and the administration hasn't been heavy-handed enough. I would say, if I was Mnuchin and Treasury, I'd say, look, we bailed you fucking criminals out in 2008. You guys were running rampant. We bailed you out.
And we didn't throw you in jail like they did.
Exactly. And I was at Citi, so I know what was going on in 2008. It was mayhem. We bailed you out, okay? Hank Paulson, the Fed back then. We bailed you out 100 cents on the dollar, you scumbags. And then we fronted you the money to get back on your feet, right? Billions of dollars. I think at Citi we got $50 billion from the federal government, right? And now you're going to play grab ass over a half a point on an interest rate on loans to Main Street? First of all, you need a history lesson. You need to go back 12 years, right? You owe us, number one. Number two, if you don't want to do this, we can make life very difficult for you in the future and start taking a look at all your lending practices. And you don't want that. But they didn't do that. They're like, yeah, well, whatever. If you want to loan these people the money, it's cool. You know, big companies are getting $500 billion off the top. It's insane. Think about that. They earmarked $385 billion from this $2 trillion package for small businesses, and big companies got $500 billion. But small business is the engine that runs the country. So it's insane. It really is. But I saw it coming, and I felt bad for people. And they say, "You're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. You're breeding fear into people." I said, All I can tell you is to sit back and wait. I'm a guy out here. I think I know how things operate, how these banks operate. And now I got people coming to me saying, you were right. You were right. We got all excited.
Yep.
Now
Although
they're
I
getting
do
15
like what
grand.
they did.
They're getting 15. And I'll shut up after this. They had a cap. You could apply for up to $2 million, depending on how many employees you had and stuff. Now the cap is 15,000. What does that tell you? Imagine if
Right.
you had a $1 million business and you're saying, all right, well, let's see. I can get $2 million. That's going to float me for 5 or 6 months. And then they come back and say, you've been approved for $2 million. And then 3 days later, they call up and say, well, we can give you 25 grand. You're like, what? And then a day later, like, well, that 25 is now 15. You have to be sitting at home saying, what the fuck kind of romper room bullshit is this? Like, my business, I'm done. It's over.
That's what I'm saying. I'm worried about the small businesses that are never going to come back.
Yeah. And they're not coming back.
Look at the ripple effect of that. That's employees out of work. That's landlords that are looking to rent space to somebody now, and who's got the money to come in and pay the rent for them now. So landlords are going to be taking it. I do like what they did with the SPVs, though. I thought that was a solid move.
Specifically, what did you like about it?
The special purpose vehicles. Well, a lot of people misunderstood it, and they said Trump now is effectively chairman of the Fed. It's like, yeah, no, that's not what that means. But he did put them. He put the U.S. Treasury in the position of the entity that'll make a profit off of the upturn instead of the Fed banksters.
Right.
So, I thought that was a good move because all of this money that the Treasury is spending, the Treasury should profit off of it when it comes back. I want to see the details, though. All these large company loans, what kind of warrants, options, and shares is the Treasury getting in these SPVs in exchange for making these loans to big businesses?
Yeah. Those minute details, they miss the general public. They always miss the general public, and they never. There's just so much going on. There's so much you can download as a American citizen and as a consumer of the news. Everybody's tapped out. Everybody's overloaded, and you're like, a lot of these things, like we're talking about viruses and we're talking about bailouts. There's all these idiosyncrasies that go along with it. They're hard for everybody to comprehend. But at the end of the day, we're always the ones out here holding the bag because we're paying for it.
Exactly. And like I said, I applaud you for asking questions because, pretty much it's a guarantee. It's almost a 100% ironclad guarantee that when you see a scientific or medical issue discussed in the popular press, they get the details wrong. They get the facts wrong. They don't know what they're talking about. Because most reporters go out there, they hear a buzzword from one guy, and then they start using it, and they don't know what it means, and they end up making a dog's breakfast out of the whole piece. But you do a really good job.
I appreciate
you do your research, you ask the hard
Yeah,
questions.
you got a good channel, dude.
Interested in telling the truth, which most journalists aren't. And I applaud you for what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate it. When I was coming up, like in Intel, and I learned a little bit of it when I was young in journalism, but in journalism, somebody described, when I was covering the governor's office in New Jersey, I was a young guy, and before I started running the investigative division at my paper, they said, journalism is like running in front of, some veteran reporter told me this in the State House, journalism is like running in front of a farm combine every day, and the blades are like 3 inches from the back of your head. And then you get up the next day, you have to do the same thing. You have to become like an expert on everything within hours. And you lose a lot when you do that because you get a lot of things wrong. Intel, when you change over, you can't make mistakes. And you got to ask questions. I'm telling you, I feel bad for a lot of guys. I call them 10 times in a day. I don't get this. I'm not getting. They're like, what is wrong with you? How can you not get this? I'm like, just explain it to me again. Explain it to me again. And you become like a pain in the ass. But that's what we need now. We need some answers to figure out what's going on, because the people that we've elected and put in a position whether through election or not, to be our caretakers, they're not giving us any answers, not giving us any information. We don't even know if there's a second virus. We don't know what's going on. Was he lied to and all these things? And then we're left out here like in the dark trying to fumble around. It's madness.
It is. And I love what the left is trying to tar him with now. He has reduced Americans' belief in media to the point where people don't even know where they can turn to get news that will save their lives, says the guy on CNN. It's like, yeah, well, the president has only shined a spotlight on you because you have been proven to be liars.
Yeah, the problem is, that is true, but the problem is the people around him is, you see, this is a challenge that maybe a lot of people don't understand this because we live in such a fast society and everybody wants everything like Amazon Prime. The downfall of leaders in world history has always been when they get bad information and bad intelligence and they insist that it's right because they trust the people around them. But the people around them are selling them down the river. But by the time you understand this, 9.9 times out of 10 in politics, especially when there's like a serious situation like now, it's too late. The damage is done. And then the people like Fauci and Birx and Redfield, they just go about their business. They're going to keep their jobs. They have job security. If a Democratic president comes in next, they're going to stay. These guys are Democrats to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't know how the hell they got here. But
Fauci slit his throat when he referred to inconveniences.
Yeah.
This is a little more than inconvenience, Al.
Well, that's how he it's very telling when he says something like that. To him, it's like this is like an inconvenience to a guy like Fauci. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we didn't ascertain this speed bump when we were hashing out this plan. So to everybody else, his life is upside down, and these guys are going to make money. Like I talked to Bobby Kennedy, you'll hear him talk about how much money guys like Fauci make and how much money the government agencies make on these vaccines when they partner with the vaccine companies and with guys like Bill Gates. It's a lot of money. A lot of money.
Well, you know, that's how Redfield got to be the head of the CDC, right?
Yeah, he left government.
His predecessor had to resign because she was self-dealing.
Yeah.
She was actually holding, equity stakes in Merck and in a couple of the other large vaccine companies.
Yeah, and she had a tremendous amount of stock in tobacco companies. And then she was making policy that would benefit her pocket instead of people's safety. So like, look, you got to get out of here, right? You got to beat it. I mean, that it was so bad she actually had to leave, and she resigned. It goes on and on and on. Redfield's not an honorable guy either. I don't know how. I for the life of me, I don't understand why.
Well, and here's
these guys? What did Bobby Kennedy say? They get promoted by falling down forward or something, like they fall down forward. I thought it was very telling when he said that. He's like, they're like hacks. These people are hacks.
Yeah, no, Redfield is the embodiment of the Peter Principle. People will rise to the level of their own incompetence.
It's madness. This guy,
I'll let it
right? And then a lot of people don't know. Now he's director of the CDC. He's got control of the purse strings of where a lot of these vaccines can go to, not only in the U.S., but outside the U.S. Who's going to get the contracts, right? Our research shows that he's taken, when he left government in 1995 and he went to the University of Maryland, he was a co-founder of this Institute of Virology or whatever.
Yeah, the virology with Coelho, yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Gates has given these guys I'd say over $100 million. You can't even. It's so much money flying between Gates and where Redfield was working, and it could be well over $100 million, right? To do the research on HIV and everything else they were doing. Okay, so you don't tell me that Redfield's not in Gates's pocket. Gates has got like $100 million. Let's just say, I think it's more than $100 million. So far, we're up to like 60 or 70 million or 80 million. We added up. We haven't even gone through all the tax returns. So I'm going to say $100 million plus he's given Redfield when Redfield, before Redfield's new CDC job, right? You don't think Redfield's in this guy's pocket? What?
Absolutely. I cannot admire President Trump enough for all that he's accomplished, despite having to walk into a 250 knot headwind every single day. I mean, first it started with Russia. They were talking about impeaching him before he even took the oath of office. It's been incredible. But I do have one criticism of him, and that's the people that he has hired to be around him. Because time after time, he has proven to trust people who are untrustworthy.
Guys are snakes, man. Snakes.
Mike, I've got a guy who was in the green room at Politicon when Reince Priebus and Donna Brazil were laughing and joking and making plans to go on vacation together.
Yeah.
Come on.
And that's
He's
just
the guy you're going to have to be your chief of staff?
It's time and time. There's so many. You can't even keep track of the bad choices. And it's concerning. It's one thing, be honest with you, it's one thing if you're just kind of a passive onlooker and a political junkie to say, that's crazy. But when it starts affecting everybody's lives, it rises to a different level of concern, obviously.
Exactly.
And that's where we're at. But look,
I think he's done an amazing job of riding the Tiger through this one because he knows that they're running a game on him. Because Donald Trump might be a billionaire, but he's also street, Mike.
Man, I can't believe the color of the sky
Look,
out here.
I don't disagree with you, but I know the street too, and I'm not a billionaire or a millionaire, but I know sometimes if you get enough guys conspiring against you, they paint you into a corner you can't get out of.
Exactly.
Easily. You can always get out of it. You can always get out of it.
He knows they're running a game on him.
Yeah.
But now the question is whether he can win that game.
It is crazy weather.
Unfortunately.
Keep this fucking rain off your skin too.
Unfortunately, we're all in a bad position because of what's going on one way or the other. If it turns out that this was all BS and there's not some kind of a second, and look, and I'm not saying that there's definitely some kind of a second strain or second wave of this, but I'm not discounting it either based on the information that we have. So, but if he was just totally conned, and this is like a con game, I don't even know what most Americans, how they're going to handle that. You can't keep a lid on something this big. I don't care how damn skilled you are and how much of the media that you quote unquote own. People are not going to put up with this.
Somebody's going to gun for a Pulitzer.
Well, people aren't going to put up with it. I mean, they're taking away people's jobs. The kids are home at school. If you had kids who just graduated, let's say in the last couple of years, and they have their own place in the city or something, they came back home.
Yeah.
Okay. Now they don't have jobs, right? Your high school and grade school kids are at home, and you thought that going to work was hard enough. Now you got to keep an eye on them. Now you got to help them with school. Now you have to be their teacher too. Your money's running out. It's tough to get food. It's going to continue to be more difficult to get food as we lose food sources, whether it's soybeans or green beans.
I was talking to the guy that managed our local supermarket, and you walked in there and it looked like it wasn't Venezuela, but it looked like Poland back in the Soviet era.
Yeah, they come in there to smoke the places.
Half empty.
Yeah.
And I talked to him. He said, he goes, we ordinarily order 900 cases of product a week. Because of this situation, I've been ordering 3,500 cases, and I'm only getting delivered 800 cases.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who's a truck driver, and she told me she's driving a run with only 2 or 3 pallets in the truck.
I can't. The supply lines are so fractured that they can't.
And I asked him, I said, "Are people hoarding, or is your supply chain hit?" He goes, "I have no supply chain anymore." He said, "I got some things on order. They're just not coming in at all. I'll order 50 cases, and I don't even get one."
This is like I used to watch MASH every day after school, and whenever there was there was always a shortage going on, and then Radar O'Reilly would have to dial up and use all these underground, clandestine, black market sources to get stuff. I mean, it's going to come down to that. You know, you get you get a couple
Yeah.
steaks, it's going to be on the black market.
Oh
They
man!
wanted $30 for a
I'll
two-rib
trade you a bottle of
rib
bourbon
roast.
for a
Who
can of
gets
corn.
a two-rib rib roast? That's two steaks. That's not a rib roast.
Yeah, I saw chicken selling for like almost $20 for a chicken breast, for a pound and a half chicken breast. I said, now that's highway robbery, man.
Wow.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Wow.
I don't know how you can sleep at night if you're selling chicken and you're whacking the price up by 500% to people that need food. It's not like this is luxury chicken type thing, you know.
Exactly.
I don't know where all this is going, my man, but I appreciate your time, and we'll have you back on. And I appreciate your insights into viruses and things like this, and I think it's going to be very educational to people that are listening because nobody's explaining things.
Exactly.
And we're like lay people out here are just left to be like, oh, I don't know what to believe, you know. Pneumonia, lungs, what does this do? This, that, and the other thing. It's very confusing, and it's a good 1-2 punch to have you on and then Bobby Kennedy because I want to help try to give people a little bit of a shine a light, you know, give them a bright light maybe to follow that they can frame with the rest of the information they have coming in. And so I appreciate it, brother.
Right back at you, Mike. I appreciate what you're doing to get the truth out. You're asking the tough questions, and you're doing a great job trying to.
All right. I want to thank my guests today for being rock and roll stars. Bobby Kennedy Jr. and Timothy Shea.
Thank
We're
you.
rocking and rolling today. Okay. You need to follow Bobby on Instagram. That's where he's doing a lot of his ass kicking. It's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on Instagram. The chairman of the Children's Health Defense. And that's childrenshealthdefense.org. He's got a video up there, and he's got, you know, a number of messages, and that's where he's took on Gates. He's got a lot of things going on. Busy man. We'll have him back. And we'll have the scientist back. I had a lot of fun this episode, and I hope you guys learned as much as I did. As much fun as you can have during this time, but I mean, we're alive. We're still here. We're still kicking, right? We still got some fight left in us. We gotta remember we can still fight. We don't have to lay down and take this crap all the time. Stand up. We'll keep plugging away here. Bobby, I heard from Bobby after the taping of the show, and he told me to keep fighting. So that's what I'm going to do.
Thanks,
that's
Mike.
What he's doing, and that's what a lot of us are out here doing, and it's good to see he's doing it too. So, also, if you found some value in this show and you learned something, think about support.
Oh, what the hell just happened? That was weird. Don't forget to check out the Bearded Heretic.